We're with Russ Camilleri, a distinguished member of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Russ, tell us a little bit about your experience so far here in Stillwater and getting a chance to be honored with the greats of our sport.
What can you say except fantastic? It's just, I've run into so many old friends of mine, and it's just been a tremendous experience for me.
Tell me a little bit about how you got involved in wrestling. You were one of the left coast people out there in California in high school and in college. And how did you find wrestling?
I was a sophomore in high school when I started, and actually I was talked into it by my football coach. I played football also, and he was the line coach for football and also the wrestling coach. And I decided to try it, and I really enjoyed it. In fact, I like to tell a little story about his philosophy. I mean, and the program was a tremendous program. The high school had won so many matches with him as head coach, and he did a terrific job year after year, and I was just real lucky to fall into it. The thing that really got me was the first day he came out with his opening speech to all the wrestlers, and nothing's impossible. You're only held back by your own thoughts, and he told a story of you can succeed if you believe it, and this and that. And one of the kids hollered out, "Did you ever try to get toothpaste back in the tube?" Well, in those days they were metal tubes.
Sure.
And he never said anything to the boy. The next day he comes in with a plate, a tube of toothpaste, and a spatula. He squirted it all out on the plate. He took the spatula and opened up the back of the toothpaste. Well, in those days they were crimped.
Right, right.
Yeah, and he twisted the back off, opened it up, put all of the toothpaste back into the tube, tightened it up, and flipped it to the kid that had made the statement and said, "Here, try this." And I realized then it depends on how you look at things, but there is nothing that is impossible.
Now, you went to college at San Jose State and
Yes,
won the Pacific Coast Conference. And what made you decide to stay in wrestling after you're finished with college? I know you had a much longer career than a lot of the guys that go to college and do well.
Mm-hmm.
You stayed in the sport.
I stayed in the sport by accident. Again, people ask me, what do you attribute to your success? I have to say I've been the luckiest guy in the world, because every instance just fell into place. I've had some of the greatest coaches. I've had, like how I got started. When I was in college, I wrestled in the National AAU tournament. It was the first national tournament I'd ever wrestled in, and it happened to be in San Francisco, and that's the only reason I wrestled in it.
Yeah, close by, right?
Close by, yes. And I had had a little experience with freestyle and Greco-Roman because, again, luck. The Hungarian wrestling team abdicated in 1956. They were having a war over there.
Right.
And they dropped, this was the 56 Olympics, and we had a big Hungarian community in San Francisco, so they ended up in the San Francisco area. And I'll be darned, but half a dozen of them or better were at the San Francisco Olympic Club. And again, I used to go up to the club on a Monday and Wednesday nights. I was a member of the club, while I was in college, and I was able to go up there, work out Monday and Wednesday, and I had this one captain. He was a captain from the Hungarian army. His name was Julius Beno.
Right.
And I can really thank him for so much of the Greco that I learned, which made me a better freestyle wrestler.
Right.
Again, this was in college. After I graduated, I was in the Air Force, and I hadn't thought about wrestling at all. In fact, I thought my wrestling career finished in college, and that was it. But again, luck. I'm driving down 48th Avenue in Nebraska, and I had met a man out in San Francisco by the name of Newt Koppel, who had wrestled for years and years. Terrific wrestler, was National AAU chairman for a while, and and I hear this ad on on the radio while I'm driving down 48th Avenue. I'll stand on my head for you to make a deal. And it happened to be this Newt Koppel character, and I'm looking ahead, and here's this big flashing sign on this car lot, Newt Koppel Motors. Well, I might pull in there and just see if it's the same guy. I did. I met him. He immediately told me about Bill Smith, who was Olympic champion in '52 and was a coach at University of Nebraska, and I can get you a locker and this and that. And I only pulled in to say hello to the guy. And so following Monday, I met him, and we went to the University of Nebraska wrestling room, and he introduced me to Bill Smith, which again, luck. I'm sorry, I hate to keep using that word, but it seems to crop up my whole life. And go back to my wife, luck. I'm not the smartest man in the world, but boy, as long as I'm the luckiest, everything will fall into place.
Tell me a little bit about the Olympic experience. I mean, that's a very elite group of people. They're able to represent their country at an Olympics. What was that like for you?
Oh, it was fantastic. It just, you know, the Rome experience was my first. That was 1960. I had an aunt and uncle who I probably would never have ever met or seen come up from Sicily. They rode a bus all night from Sicily up to Rome to meet with me, and we ended up spending a couple days together, which was a tremendous thing. He took me shopping because he was a policeman in Rome at one time, so he knew a lot of the shopkeepers and everything, and had a fun time with him. And just the first Olympics is just overwhelming, and so I just had a wonderful experience there, as well as the fact that the wrestling, I won 2 matches and lost 2 matches, but I just felt lucky to be there. Well, in the '64 Olympics, it was a different story. I felt I had the place, and it just it's hard to explain, but I enjoyed it, but it wasn't Rome, and it wasn't my first Olympics. And I just, again, I felt very disappointed with my performance there, whereas I didn't have that feeling in Rome. Just being there was everything, but Tokyo was supposed to have been business, and I didn't get it done. And that's probably why I wrestled so long. I just kept thinking that I'd sure like to get a medal in the Olympics.
Talk a little bit about the 2 styles. You've won national titles, multiple in both freestyle and Greco. Did you have a preference? Did you care? Nowadays people are only picking one of those styles.
Well, in those days, both styles were at the same place, and usually the freestyle was first, and Greco-Roman was second. And I always wrestled both styles. Actually, the Greco-Roman came easy to me because Julius Beno, this captain in the Hungarian service that I had told you was up in San Francisco, had coached me in that, and I found that it just made a much better freestyle wrestler out of me. And he showed me quite a few moves in Greco that helped me in freestyle tremendously. It's like a football team where you've got a tremendous running game, and all of a sudden you get $1 million quarterback.
Right.
And now you've got passing as well as running. Well, in freestyle, if you can do real well upper body as well as the leg moves, why it just makes you a better wrestler.
Now, when you joined wrestling in high school, did you ever think you'd be in the Wrestling Hall of Fame, being honored by the sport for being one of the greats? I mean, this has to be something that just is a tremendous honor for you.
Oh, it is. And you know, at 73, you look back and you think, why was I so lucky? And again, it gets back to people and places. I pole vaulted in high school, and we had a tremendous pole vaulting coach. In the conference, we were always best in the league for pole vaulting. My high school was. And so I was a sophomore and I went out for pole vaulting. Well, this guy was a maniac on training. In those days, you had a Swedish steel pole, so it wasn't like speed, hit, bend, and fly over.
Yeah.
It was 3 phases to pole vaulting. One was pulling, where you do the swing and you pull up. The other was the twist and the push, where you're actually do a push off to get over the bar. Well, this coach had us doing so many pull-ups, so many push-ups, and climbing the rope that at that time I grumbled a little bit, but I did it. And as I became a better pole vaulter by doing these exercises, I really believe that made me a better wrestler. You know, his idea of pull-ups, if you didn't do 25 pull-ups, you couldn't pole vault.
Right.
And, you know, most people that are good athletes will get to 20 and all of a sudden they can't go a little further. Well, you can if you work at it. and so, you know, I have a grandson that was out for wrestling. When he was in high school, I said, well, you want to be a state champion, do 25 pull-ups and climb a rope twice. And he got up to 20, 21, but he never hit that 25 pound, you know, number. Well, he did very well in high school. He was league champion. He placed in the leader meets. He won some tournaments, but again, if he'd have hit that 25 pull-ups, I really believe he would have been a state champion. Because getting to 25 takes perseverance and just that stubbornness to do it, you know. And this is wrestling. And it's such a great sport because any size, and you could be a champion. You don't have to be 6'6" like you do in basketball. You don't have to be 200 plus pounds like football requires. You know, you could be 105 pounds and be a world champion.
That's wonderful sport. Now,
Yeah.
we really appreciate you doing this interview, and congratulations on this honor, becoming a distinguished member of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Thanks a lot, Russ.
Thank you, sir.